What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a new edition of the Bills Roundtable. It is a shortened Bills Roundtable. It's just me and Zbot here today to go through this monumental Bills victory, burying the Cincinnati Bengals. Zbot, how you feeling today?
I'm just glad my heart rate is down to a normal level right now, Kevin. It took me the entire day yesterday to really get back to normal. It was elevated to the point that I thought I might have to go to the hospital for about 3 consecutive hours. That game was insane. It was one of my all-time favorite games, for better or worse. For the majority of it, I thought that it just wasn't going to go Buffalo's way. Then Christian Benford made it go Buffalo's way. That game was incredible. What a win for Buffalo to get to 9-4. The way that they did it, the environment in which they did it, in against who they did it, or who they did it against. It was just everything about it was awesome. The defensive ability to overcome their shortcomings in that game, really be the difference maker. Josh Allen was extraordinary. Credit to the coaching staff for the amount of times they were willing to go for it on fourth down in this game. A lot of little things that you're hoping to see in the playoffs, I think you saw in this game. Obviously, it didn't come without its faults, but a win is a win in December. I don't really care how they come. And the way things were looking, it didn't feel like it was going to come. So huge shout out to Buffalo, one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, for sure. And how are you feeling all together? I mean, the Bills were, maybe since week one, the only team to have to play the full strength Bengals. They were really just missing Hendrickson, who's now out with core muscle surgery. They're claiming, but other than that, they were fully healthy. They were missing nobody on that roster. That's the funny part. I think it was 20. I think they're just missing. Then they traded Logan Wilson. I think it was really their week one starter. This is what they projected to be their starting unit. And the Bills got the best of them. Does that make you feel better than saying, like, everybody else beat Joe Flacco? Some people didn't even play either receiver. Like the Patriots didn't have to. Higgins went down with the concussion early on in that game. Now he's back in concussion protocol. Shocker, which is a really weird handling of that. But does that win make you feel better knowing you beat pretty much the cream of what Cincinnati had to throw to you? And they really did. They threw the kitchen sink at you.
Oh, of course it does. The Bills now 3-0 against the AFC North this year. You could argue 2 of the 3 games were the games of the year. The Baltimore Ravens game, I think, will go down as the game of the year. That's one of the greatest games of all time, in my opinion. This game, it's up there. Truly, it was an incredible football game. And how about the Bills being on the winning side, Kevin, of 2 of the games of the year? How many times have the Bills been on the wrong side of those football games, 2 of which come against AFC North teams? And if Cincinnati wins that game, as bad as Baltimore is looking, we know how bad Pittsburgh can be. We just saw it a week ago. They really would have been in the mix. This ended their season. And, you're looking at it, and you just mentioned it. Not only are you playing the full-strength version of this Bengals team, and I think many would have thought a full-strength Bengals team throughout the duration of the football season would be a team that makes the playoffs. And I think maybe if Joe Burrow's healthy throughout the year, with as down as the Ravens and the Steelers have been, why wouldn't it have been the Cincinnati Bengals to win this division? If they still have a chance in December going into that game without Joe Burrow for the duration of the season, essentially, what would make you think they wouldn't have won it if he was healthy? So you're playing a full-strength Cincinnati Bengals team with their season on the line. That is about as tough of a situation as you're going to face when it comes to playing that team. And for the Bills to overcome that was truly impressive. Josh Allen, once again, was just extraordinary. You're looking at these 2 quarterbacks, and we thought this going into the game. Whoever mitigates the mistakes is going to win. And for the longest time, we thought the James Cook fumble was going to be the dagger, and that would have been the difference in the football game. But Joe Burrow wound up being the player to end up costing Cincinnati. As well as he played in this football game, Josh Allen played even better and didn't turn the ball over. And Joe Burrow turned it over twice in 2 passes. The Bills don't win that football game without those 2 passes. So the fact that they were full strength, the fact that they're coming off of that win against Baltimore and they're completely bought back in, the fan base is bought back in, and everybody's telling you this is going to be destiny. For the Bills to get that done, I don't know how you couldn't be impressed about it.
Yeah, I still think betting favorite for the AFC. Probably going in as the 5 seed at this point. You're going to get, hopefully what bettors are thinking is you're going to get whatever comes out of this AFC North. They just watched you dominate the Steelers. You're basically going to run that game back most likely. And then if the Texans go in as a wild card team and upset somebody, the next thing you know, this bracket's all upside down, and the Bills could be hosting an AFC championship game when it's all said and done based on who's where and who's, based on what seeding. So the bettors are feeling good. You may see a playoffs, and probably will, without Lamar. without Patrick Mahomes, without Joe
Well,
Burrow.
dude, to your point, I mean, the Patriots are the 1 seed right now. The Bills are a 1.5 point favorite on the road against them this upcoming week. So if you want an idea of who the betting public thinks is going to go to the Super Bowl out of the AFC, it's Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, that gets really interesting really quickly, and we're going to recap and review it a little bit more on Thursday. But Jake, welcome in. Glad to have you. How are you feeling early on with the way, I guess, the last 2 weeks have gone? The Bills basically becoming the king of the North as long as they're able to take care of Cleveland in a few weeks. And they're kind of interesting roster. But Jake, how are you feeling? How is it on the ground? Give us a little insight about your opinions on this. As Zbot said, one of the better games of the year.
Hey, man, it's been a lot of ups and downs this season, right? And I think that this has been like a transitional year in the National Football League. We see a lot of those teams that were bottom feeders last year really moving up in the standings. And what the Buffalo Bills are doing is they're staying as one of the consistent teams that are actually still in the playoffs from last year. Like, you see the Chiefs and the Ravens falling off. If you would have told me that in September, I wouldn't have believed you. Like, I don't think anyone would have believed that the Chiefs and Ravens on the outside looking in like this. Buffalo Bills, they just got to get into the dance, and then anything can happen on any given Sunday. The last few weeks, they've been incredible. I mean, going to Pittsburgh, that atmosphere was insane. Hostile environment, getting the win like that. It was a gritty game, low-scoring affair, but the Buffalo Bills did what they had to do to get the win, and that's all that matters, is just do enough to get the wins. It doesn't matter how pretty they are. Get the wins, stack them up, get into the playoffs, and keep winning. Just win.
So
just win the damn game.
How was it? How was it on the field? How did it look? How was the stadium? How was the crowd? What was going on?
Yesterday, snow globe game. That was incredible atmosphere. Like, I mean, just ups and downs all game. Like, it's been ups and downs throughout the season, but the ups and downs were constant throughout this game. That James Cook fumble on the 1 yard line. I had a parlay. T. Higgins, anytime touchdown. Dalton Kincaid, anytime touchdown. James Cook, anytime touchdown. My guy, he sold the damn parlay there, but that's okay. Buffalo Bills get the win nonetheless. That fumbling on the one, going for a touchback there, it really felt like that was a momentum swing, because just before that, you had that flag call back the touchdown on the play as well. So a lot of ups and downs in this game, but at the end of the day, the Buffalo Bills did what they had to get the crowd into it. And the defense, that first half, it was not pretty. The offense, it wasn't pretty in the first half either. But they played that complementary football in the second half, made the adjustments that they need to. Christian Benford, back-to-back weeks with defensive touchdowns. This guy has been incredible over the last 2 weeks.
For sure. I mean, what else can you do? The reigning defensive MVP of the week. I mean, he was taking some shots early on the season. He clearly wasn't playing healthy. The Bills were already without Maxwell Harrison. They clearly didn't want to roll out Trey White. And then Jamarcus Ingram, who they've later cut. I mean, I don't even know what the situation would have looked like if Benford wasn't able to go. So they probably would have rather taken some form of lower level Benford than rolling in their fourth or fifth cornerback in these games. So it's very clear that this is the Benford that was extended. He's only costing $2.5 million on the cap. How about that? That is insanity. And $7 million next year is a great contract. That is a great extension by Brandon Beane. That is one he absolutely knocked out of the park, especially with this level of play. And lastly, these two quarterbacks yesterday were the number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks in the league in EPA per play yesterday. So they did really get a show offensively. And even that's with the turnovers. But let me tell you about how much the James Cook fumble affected this game. It actually made the Bills running, and that's including Josh Allen. That made the Bills running negative for the day in terms of advanced metrics because of how much they factored that mattering. Like, it should not ever happen to where you fumble, the other team recovers, and then they go and score. That greatly affects a football game. That is one that actually turned the Bills one of the worst rushing teams of the day yesterday because of that fumble. That's how much they claim, advanced analytics claims, potentially changed the trajectory of that game. So it's a tough one to have 5 fumbles, 3 losses in the last 5 weeks. So the Bills do need to figure that out if they are running this style of offense, and the Bills just don't lose late in the year. That is one thing Joe Brady, I wanted to get to you guys in your question on Joe Brady. That is one thing you can expect from Joe Brady is this offense does start to work better as the season goes on. So that's kind of like the antithesis of Ken Dorsey was like, it was really good, really good, really good. Like, okay. And then bad. So that was like a really interesting kind of dichotomy of changes. So Zbot, how are you feeling now seeing that the Bills tight ends basically went for 150 yards and multiple touchdowns and a 2-point conversion, the running backs getting involved in the passing game now, as well as, I mean, Joe Brady's undefeated in December at home.
I was beyond impressed in their ability to take advantage of exactly what you thought they should take advantage of going into the football game. You knew how bad Cincinnati was against defending tight ends, and Dalton Kincaid being injured was an awfully big concern of mine throughout the week because I felt that one of the biggest areas that the Bills could exploit was going to be the tight end disadvantage there. I mean, they just haven't been able to cover anybody. Everybody's had a field day against Cincinnati. So you get Kincaid back, but then my concern after that would be, well, how healthy is he really? Because we've been missing him the last several weeks. He was injured throughout the week. Yes, he's back, but how much of an impact is he going to be? He was an impact, but he didn't need to be the full impact because Dawson Knox was back to being a vintage version of Dawson Knox. And the ability to take advantage of that is where you got to give credit to Joe Brady. They knew what they had to do going into this football game. It wasn't their best running game, and I believe what you said there, Kevin, about the advanced analytics. That's where I thought the Bills were going to lose it. When you are about to walk into the end zone and you fumble it, then they go down and take it in for a touchdown. Yeah, you don't win many football games like that, especially against an offense that's capable of letting the scoreboard up. But their ability outside of that turnover to really do whatever they wanted in this football game was impressive because it's exactly what they had to do. Josh Allen using his legs, the ability to establish the run game with James Cook, the implementation of the tight ends. If you factor in all three tight end production in this game, they had half of Josh Allen's receptions. They had 2 touchdowns, 150 yards. They were dominant. And I think you have to give credit for the ability to exploit what is exploitable. And everyone knew the inefficiency of Cincinnati's defense lies in the inability to do a lot of things, really, but beyond everything, stop the tight ends. There's no secret as to why Dawson Knox went off in that football game. That was by design. The ability to do that, though, without Kincaid being of full health, because if that was Kincaid fully healthy, I mean, the numbers could have been even higher. And Dawson Knox had an all-time day. I mean, he was one of the top tight ends in the league on Sunday. So credit all around. It's funny, right? When you can run the football, when you can block, and when Josh Allen's having a top-tier game, well, you don't hear a whole lot about Joe Brady. And that's not to say that Joe Brady's some expert offensive coordinator. We all have our criticisms of him. But we all also know that execution on the field goes a long way. And when you're getting everything clicking like it was on Sunday, you're not going to hear many complaints about the offensive coordinator. And a lot of that lies on Josh Allen. When he plays as well as he does, it's really hard to nitpick what goes wrong. But going into this game, you could tell that was the game plan and they executed it.
Yeah, and I talk about it all the time about how one long run from, let's say, Bijan Robinson doesn't necessarily change the game because you get the ball, you can still dictate. It's bad, but it doesn't totally crush your EPA or totally trust the trajectory of the game. A fumbling in the end zone, you wasted the entire quarter. You then fumbled it through the end zone. They get the ball, they go down and score, and they use more time. That is what changes it into a difference of, let's say, a long run touchdown comparatively to what happened. The stats do not like those fumbles, especially lost right then and there when they expected the Bills to score 6. That is a huge difference. So it is monumental. The Bills need to figure out the best way to handle that going forward. I mean, he's losing a few too many and almost lost one a couple plays earlier where he bobbles it, reaching it over. I mean, questionable. Definitely didn't look like it crossed. Wouldn't have been a touchdown. Looked like it would have been down at like the inch line, but it's still a crazy scenario. But in Brady's defense here, let's not forget, of 2 things. One, Ty Johnson slipping on air. I know it was snowy. I mean, that's a touchdown. They ran that full back end around essentially and totally fooled the entire Cincinnati defense. What a good play call when Ty Johnson is in as a dual running back situation. They run that pretty well, that 22 personnel. I mean, it's pretty dynamic. It's pretty tough to stop. You don't know who's getting the ball and where they're going. Anyways, that should have been a touchdown. So that was some points off the board too. So realistically, you're looking at 11 points that should have gone your way before the fourth quarter even started. So that game could have been a lot different. The Bills could have hung 50 realistically. I know I'm not, can you play that kind of game? I know a lot of people don't like to play that type of dynamic, but still, like, that's how many points were left on this board. Joe Brady, got to give it to him in this game, did play a fantastic game. And ultimately, this is what you're looking for late in the game. So, Jake, wanted to ask you, If you look at it from a perspective of the defense continuing to play better in second halves, that's super interesting. Why can't they play better in the first half, first of all? Well, you're getting scripted play. Cincinnati wanted the ball for a reason, guys. Like, they didn't just put their defense out there. They knew they had good plays called. They knew the elements favors the offense. They knew a lot of those kind of information. The Bills need to figure it out a little bit earlier. But what is your opinion on how the Bills are able to adjust in second halves of these games? Because they're the best second half team in football right now.
I mean, if you just go based off of the tendency of, not performing in the first half, are they prepared to go out there on the first half? Is it a lack of preparation? That is a serious question for me, because if you have all these adjustments in the second half, and the thing is, they go out and they make these big time plays and some big time moments. And we saw this earlier in the season as well. This has been something that we've been touching on for a while, even dating back to last season. Like, you got a turnover in a big time moment, and then your offense is able to go down, capitalize on that. So it is complementary football in the second half a lot of the times, but we're not seeing it in the first half. And I don't have an answer as to why that is, but to me, are they prepared is a serious question, because making these adjustments at halftime and then actually acting on them, that's something that is an interesting tendency.
Fair. Zbot, I know you probably have some opinions on that. What are your opinions on these, I don't want to call amazing, these very good second halves of football games, and the Bills, and continuing this trend even in losses, how they've shut down even the Falcons in that second half. They played significantly better against Houston, didn't move. They had like 50 or 60 total yards in the second half, and should have won. Give me your opinion on why they're so good in the second half, and then what's going on to start games, in your opinion, even offensively. Like, what do you think's happening a little bit here?
I find it to be incredibly interesting because it is a reoccurring theme. It's almost every week here. The difference, however, the last 2 weeks, especially in this football game against the Bengals, was the offense decided to show up alongside the defense in the second half. If we look at the Atlanta Falcons game at halftime, the defense stepped up. Atlanta couldn't do anything. And when you compare it to what they were doing in the first half, it was night and day. Unfortunately, the Bills offense never showed up in the second half. They weren't there the entire game. Houston Texans game, it's the same thing. They scored 21 points at half. They're held to a field goal in the second half. The Bills just could not put points on the board. They couldn't win the football game. Now you're looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers game. What flipped the entire game was the strip sack from Joey Bosa. Benford takes it in. Then they pick it off following the following drive. Then the Bills offense started to gain momentum. But in this Bengals game, what I found to be interesting, they came right out of the chutes in that second half all the way down the field. The problem, of course, being that, as time would go on, they felt like they were going to run out of time, right? But they ended up putting up 21 points in the fourth quarter. The pick six, of course, one of the touchdowns there, but they scored 28 total points in the second half. To me, that was the big difference here. The defense holds Cincinnati to 13, and you can look at that and say, well, 13 in each half, that's still 26 points, but you're still playing an offense that's one of the best in the NFL. So to hold them to 13 points in the second half, you're probably signing up for that against Joe Burrow and company. But for the ability to go out there and score 28 points, that was the ultimate difference. Now, is there some concern with that? Of course, because in the playoffs, you can't take 30 minutes off and expect to rattle off 4 consecutive wins to win a Super Bowl. I don't know necessarily what the exact issue is. It could be that scripted play scenario where they just don't have the answers for what teams are throwing at them early on. But when the game starts getting flowing, McDermott has these answers as time goes on there. I personally think, though, if the offense can continue to match the production in that second half, the Bills are going to be just fine. They have to be able to put points on the board like they have been the last couple of weeks here. That's been the difference. In both of those games in the first half, the Bills' offense was lacking. In the second half, they really picked it up. You'd like to see 60 minutes. You look throughout the course of the football, or you look throughout the course of the year, the Bills really haven't put together many complete football games. The Kansas City Chiefs game comes to mind, but they are few and far between. I do know, though, when this team makes the postseason, when they're in the postseason, that's usually where they play their best ball offensively. So I trust this team, once they get in there, to have more performances similar to the last few weeks than not. But it is an awfully interesting dynamic, fellas. I don't know if we have the answer. All you can hope is that whatever they're doing in the second half can start to trickle into the first half, because if so, this might be the best team going into the postseason in the AFC. You already have the most experience out of any quarterback. If you can find a way to generate production in the first half the way they have in the second half, nobody's going to want to face this team.
Absolutely. It's an interesting dichotomy. I mean, I really think of like, you're right. They did match for once. Well, not for once, but lately the defense and offense matched. I guess you could kind of say that happened in Pittsburgh, although the defense was just dominant. So it was really tough to know how well the offense played in that game for the most part. They did play really good in the second half. And I'll give them credit that the offense played at least pretty good in the first half of this game, outside of just that slip up there. Like it was a solid first half, but I mean, the defense just played so poorly, and it's almost the Atlanta game all over again defensively, and literal flip in the second half. I know Joe Burrow. I mean, I see some comments here about how they weren't full. I mean, they were. This was the first game the Bengals were full strength. Like they had all four of their weapons, I think, for their first time since week one, including Gesicki and Chase Brown and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So I'm not sure. They were full strength. They were full strength on the entire offensive side of the ball. And just missing Hendrickson, who clearly just doesn't want to play for them this year for some reason and now needs surgery. The Bills did get that pass, and I think that helps them be trained. And then go figure that T. Higgins is now out. So now the next team, the Ravens, will not have to worry about T. Higgins, where he should have been out for the rest of that game.
I can't believe they let him back in.
I mean, he was holding his head. It's one thing to have like silent symptoms later on in the day or something. You're talking about like very clearly smashed his head on a cold ground multiple times.
But he's coming off of a concussion that had him sidelined the week before too. It's not like this was an isolated incident either.
He hit my 2+ touchdown bet after that though, so I'll take it.
No, there
sharp.
I mean, it hurt probably hit many people's probably 2 touchdown bet plus. So
right, it was the ladder. You got to climb it.
I mean, we saw what happened in the Raiders game. Everyone's flipping out about. So, with the field goal, I mean, that's a wild. I mean, it's the right football play though to take that field goal. I mean, it really is. Like at best, you get a second left, and I don't know. Like, but it is the right move. You're down 2 scores, but it was really weird with the delay of game call in the defense. That was a super strange environment across the league for a lot of discussion, especially when you see what's been going on a little bit in baseball.
I love that because if gambling didn't exist, I think Pete Carroll still does the same thing. The only difference is nobody's talking about it. That's what's hilarious about it to me. And the other thing too is for everybody who lost on that kick, there's also 50% of the people who won on that kick. So you have to look at it 2 different ways here. Not everybody's losing on that, by the way. You know, there's plenty of people who cashed on that exact same
There must have been a lot of people on the covering though, because I would have seen a lot more people celebrating, like taking the points in the Raiders, I guess. But you're right. There is 2 sides to that coin. But what's interesting here about the Bills game, the one thing that really jumped out to me as you kind of like dissect a lot of what's going on. First of all, I want to talk about Josh Allen's crazy. I mean, he was like Josh. We just talked about Josh and Joe 1 and 2. Josh was like triple EPA of Joe, like triple. Literally, he played 3 times better per EPA. Doesn't work quite like that, but for reference point, you're talking about a 0.66 EPA. You're talking about every time he touched the ball or every drop back, let's say, that he was 0.66 better than the expectation. It's insane. Like it's almost a point per snap, roughly, like per drop back, roughly. Every time he touched the ball, it was total EPA. So that's insanity. But then you also look at now, did he creep? I want to ask you this real quickly. I don't want to talk about it too long. Did he creep back in the MVP conversation? Like if he beats Drake May this weekend, goes in there and beats him, I think we got to talk about it being a lot closer between those 3 than initially thought like 3 weeks ago.
That's 100% the key. You nailed it. You go into New England, beat Drake May, play a performance like you did in that football game. And, you know, you don't have to have over 300 total yards and 4 touchdowns in order to be re-cemented back into that conversation. I think Matthew Stafford should win the MVP. Yeah. Up until this point, I think he is the MVP. I think the Rams are the best team in football. But I also think Josh Allen, it's almost like the LeBron James debate where you can make an argument that any given year, that guy is the most important player to their team, no matter what anybody else is doing. And if you were to remove that guy from the team then becomes unrecognizable. To me, that is the definition of MVP. So I think at any given time, you could make this argument. And you could do that for Mahomes forever. You can't do it this year for Lamar, but years past, you could, of course, do that too. But yeah, man, I think if you go in, and we know how much of this award is based and rooted in recency bias, it really, they only seem to count things that happen in November and on. If you have a rough first couple months, but you start to dominate from November on, you have just as much of a chance to win the MVP as if you were playing well prior to that, really. But if you go in on Sunday and you beat the New England Patriots, And it could also really matter, too, of course, if the Patriots falter. Miami's playing really well, by the way, right now, fellas. If they could lose to the Dolphins or lose to Baltimore and the Bills somehow find a way to win the East, I mean, look out. There's no question about it. Josh Allen's going to get some MVP votes. But if this upcoming week he wins, I think it's all just the same. I think he's right back in the conversation.
Yeah, Walter agrees. He says if they beat Maine, then a few weeks I forgot about the Eagles game there. That could it play in a. I mean, it gets interesting. I will say I'll add one final dynamic. If that happens, a Bills win out, and then they somehow steal the division and or 1 or the 2 seed. I think it gets really interesting at that point. But we got a couple of stages to go there. Jake, what do you think?
I think the Bills need to win the division in order for him to actually win the MVP award. I think that, there's something to be said about actually elevating the rest of your team and leading them into the playoffs, whether that's a wild card spot or a division spot. But Matthew Stafford, just what he's doing, it's going to be hard to beat that if you don't win the division. Regardless, I think that he could end up being a finalist. Does he end up winning? It's possible, but I think it's unlikely at this point. I think that when you look at what the Bills have done, being led by Josh Allen, we can't there's been a lot of those wins that we've really celebrated more than the other ones, like Baltimore at the beginning of the season, Kansas City, but there hasn't been like that signature win against a team that's one of the top teams in the National Football League here late in the season. And I think that's something that needs to happen still, along with a division win, maybe another one of those big 6 touchdown games. But it's a big ask for him to win the MVP at this point, just based on where the Bills stand in the standings.
Fair enough. I just thought it was getting a little bit interesting. We'll see how it looks in a few weeks. If we need to bring this up again, maybe we'll talk about it in even as soon as next week. But one thing that came out of this week, though, that I wanted to mention was the 5th seed path. That was something I wanted to talk about today with both of you. I mean, it's getting pretty interesting with going in and playing a Pittsburgh team who you're clearly better than, and then maybe matching up against, let's say things go chalk. I mean, maybe you got to go to Arrowhead. Maybe you go to New England again. Like, it doesn't seem that daunting. And then if things could go any way that they could, maybe you have a 6 seed below you in Houston that wins 2 games. And now you're in the 5 versus 6. I thought that path was possible if that was like KC. But with Houston, I could totally see them now going and beating some of these teams if they don't win the division, which they may or may not. So, Jacksonville's in here too. Like, it just doesn't seem that daunting, Zbot, of like the paths that they've had in the past of you're talking about like at home against an upstart team. They usually take care of the wild card round, but they're still not like easy games. You've had a tough Indy team in the past. You've had that New England team of the past who people said was one of the best teams in the playoffs, and the Bills crushed them. You had that tough Steelers team. I mean, some of those weren't even that Miami fought tooth and nail to the bitter end, even with a backup quarterback one of the years. So that hasn't been hard to start, but then you've always been going to KC or Baltimore, like in some form of fashion, or both in many years, it's been a tough path, a couple of MVP style quarterbacks. How are you feeling now about the path? And all of a sudden, we talked about the betting odds of the AFC in general, but like, how are you feeling now, knowing that like maybe it really is going to be a Buffalo Pittsburgh rematch? 50% likelihood. I have it about 44% likelihood.
I mean, you're feeling great about that. You're feeling great about the path in general. The path in and of itself is the easiest path, if you want to call it that. Maybe easiest isn't the right word, but I would say maybe the most ideal path the Bills have ever had to a Super Bowl. The difference is this is not the best version of the Buffalo Bills within this Josh Allen Super Bowl window. So it might offset just a little bit. But when you're talking about no Bengals, no Chiefs, no Ravens, you're looking at the experience level of quarterback play. Daniel Jones is now out for the season for the Indianapolis Colts. You go up against Houston. How often is it the Bills are losing to the same team twice in a year? Not very often. So you're looking at the path, and yeah, there's a reason why the Bills are the betting favorite right now, and that's because there is a lack of trust in the teams that have not proven anything. I know the Bills haven't gone to a Super Bowl nor won one, but what have these other teams proven? They've proven absolutely nothing. In fact, they haven't even been able to prove that they've been able to win playoff games for the most part. So you have to understand that. Now, you factor in that this Bills team has been susceptible all year long to getting beat by inferior opponents. The Bills have not won a road playoff game. So there are obstacles in the way of Buffalo 100%. And I look at this playoff picture, And I could make an argument for any single one of these teams to make the Super Bowl and win it. Any of them in the NFC and in the AFC. I really do think it's that wide open this year. So that's where I look at it and I say, why not Buffalo? Why not the Bills? You could say that for any team in the NFL right now. Why not Buffalo? The only team right now I look at that puts legitimate fear in me, it is that Houston team, and it's just because of how dominant that defense is. I mean, they went into Kansas City last night. That was a playoff game for Kansas City. When we think of Kansas City, we think of them being clutch and almost unbeatable in the moments that matter most. They were held to the fewest amount of points they've ever scored in Arrowhead with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. They looked like it might as well have been us out there last night, fellas. It really wouldn't have made much of a difference. That's what that Houston defense did to Kansas City. That's what they did to Indianapolis. That's what they did to Buffalo. The only thing I would feel decent about is that, are they going to be able to replicate what they did twice? Are they going to be able to sack Josh Allen 8 times twice? Because even with those 8 sacks, Kevin, and even with the turnovers forced, the Bills were still near the red zone with a chance to win that football game at the end. Are they going to be able to do that? So you're looking at the path, and once again, it's anybody's to win this year, but why isn't it Buffalo's best chance? Why not? Because it certainly is, in my opinion. If they can, and we've seen all year, as bad as they've played in certain games, they've also shown you in the Cincy game, in the Pittsburgh game, in the Kansas City game, in the Panthers game, if they can put performances together like that, that's a team that's capable of going the distance and winning it all.
And Jake, I'll ask you about the path in 1 second, but one thing Zbot mentioned, where we're a toe tap away of Gabe Davis, away from winning that game, having whatever it is, 4 straight wins mixed with a basically dominant stretch minus not showing up against Miami. Other than that, like, you're coming off the bye and basically rolling teams in a stretch. We're like 1 toe tap away, missing some key players with 2 hurt tackles, no Dalton Kincaid, away in that game on the road from winning that in the first place, and was super close. Gabe has been known to get his feet in the past. Just using that as an example, or some variation of them just getting it done on that final drive. Don't forget they had the ball in plus territory. Like, they were in Houston territory to win the game in that specific realm. And they didn't get it done in that one, but could that be in a different location if they come up in the snowy game? That game dictates the offense, and we know how bad Houston's offense is. That is the only thing I'll say. That defense is scary if they stay at full strength. But, like, you're going to need to play some offense, at least in modern day football, in my opinion, throughout the stretch of the playoffs. Maybe you can win a game or 2 defensively, but as you start to get into these crunch time situations, can Houston get it done potentially on the road in the snow where pass rushers are at a big disadvantage? Cornerbacks, your strengths are at a big disadvantage in those games in general, no matter who you are. So we'll see how that looks on the road. They were able to beat Kansas City, but they're a train wreck. That team is an absolute mess. We may even be rooting for them to win a game down the stretch if it helps the Bills against either the Chargers or the Broncos later on this season. So it could turn into a totally different game. We'll see how that all turns out. But Jake, do you care at all about the Bills' path? Do you think that, like, being the 5 seed matters? Like Zbot said, is it the year in terms of seeding, in terms of who you're playing, the path purposes, as compared to getting the 2? But then usually having some pretty tough paths and getting hurt every year in week 18 to get the 2, and then getting hurt in the wild card round or the divisional round, like Christian Benford taking a huge concussion on an onside kick because the Ravens did enough to backdoor them way back into the game last year. What is your opinion on the path?
Listen, I'm feeling great about the path right now. I don't think there's any way that, as a Bills fan, you can sit here, look at this, and see the Kansas City Chiefs on the outside looking in, the Baltimore Ravens in the same spot, and not be, obviously the 5 spot. You want to be winning your division, but forget that. Just forget that for a minute and look at the teams in there, the lack of quarterback experience in the playoffs. You go up against a Drake May. He's been very solid. The New England Patriots, very solid, but let's see you do it in the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I'd love to go back to Pittsburgh. Hey, I loved it there, and I'd love to go back to Pittsburgh for a playoff matchup because the Buffalo Bills are just a better team all around. Like, that defense for Pittsburgh is lethal, but they're not going to outscore Josh Allen in the Buffalo Bills offense. I really like the way that this is lining up for Buffalo. And honestly, give me any one of these teams. The Houston Texans do concern me, but I think that not having a Dalton Kincaid in that game, I'd love to see how much of a difference Dalton Kincaid and then your tackles would make against that Texans team, because they were swarming Josh Allen, 8 sacks. That can't happen. That can't happen, especially not in a playoff game. But adjust, learn from that, And if you go up against the Houston Texans again, I think you'll be prepared.
Is there a team that scares you?
It's Houston. Yeah, Houston at this point in time. Like,
wow.
Well, I wouldn't love to go up against Baltimore, so I was thrilled to see the Pittsburgh Steelers earn that victory yesterday.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's getting to be a crazy scenario of situation. So everybody is nervous of Houston. Zbot, you agree with that, or is there give me somebody else that could potentially give fits? I know people were saying Indy early on. That's since obviously faded. Is it Denver's defense? Is it just New England because of May? Is there anyone?
Yeah.
Else
Once again,
AFC?
this is where I think there's an argument for anybody. Okay. I do. I mean, even without Daniel Jones, could they go in and run the ball with Jonathan Taylor 30 times and find a way to beat Buffalo? It wouldn't stun me. I mean, if he went absolutely nuts in that game, I don't know if it would shock anybody. I think you could argue really anybody. Is Jacksonville not the most slept on 9-4 team of all time? No one's even speaking about Jacksonville. They destroyed the Indianapolis Colts yesterday. I know Daniel Jones went down, but they were going to win that football game regardless. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs as well. Jacksonville has had their moments throughout the year, and I feel like no one's talking about them. Obviously, New England, as we're seeing on your screen here, you'd have to play them a third time. It would be in New England. Should you beat them this upcoming week, it's going to be a tough spot to win twice in. Denver's a really tough place to play. And then obviously we know what Houston's defense is. But once again, for all of the strengths of these teams that you could argue, they all have a weakness, including the Buffalo Bills. Every single one of these teams, despite their strength, they have a weakness. Despite their weakness, they have a strength. I think you could argue a reason as to why you wouldn't want to play a team. You could argue a reason as to why you would want to play a team. I think that equals out to exactly what we're all thinking, and that is it really is anybody's year right now.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, what do you think?
I'd like to add to this because here's the thing. Yeah. The team, I'd just like to say, like, I don't think that we should say we're scared of any team specifically. I think that there's matchups that would be more favorable than others. But here's the thing. Look at the quarterbacks that are in this playoff picture right now. Bo Nix, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers / Mason Rudolph, Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, Josh Allen. You have Josh Allen out there. Quarterback, most important position there is. You should be he elevates the rest of the team, and we've seen him go on these runs in December. 22-9 after yesterday's game against the Bengals in the month of December. He plays his best football in January. I'm just not sure that any team's going to be able to match that in the AFC.
I think it's a good point, and we'll see how this all turns out. Could be one of the best quarterbacks in the playoffs in general, and Drake May, I guess, being the other. And then obviously you're going to have a couple in the NFC too. But Ravens Pats was just flex on the week 16. It's interesting. Miami and Cincy moved to 1 p.m. So there you go. I think there was some chat in here about are they going to do anything with that Eagles-Bills game? I don't know if that'll mean enough to the league, honestly, with the Bills. We'll see. But also it's the main Fox 4:15 game. There's no other game at 4. None. Like literally, there's not even like a bad Raiders versus something. Like it's literally the only game on at that slot. So it's essentially is in Fox's primetime slot already. So I don't know that they would let that go to. I mean, a lot of people are talking about Monday night because it is a pretty bad Monday night game that week. And I guess Monday night hasn't taken their flex game yet, and they can steal a game, and that game's Atlanta at home. So I guess that's possible that could be in the cards, but I don't think Fox will let that game go.
I mean, how they didn't flex out Dallas, Minnesota this upcoming Sunday night is a travesty.
Terrible.
Week 15, that's your Sunday night game. I could not believe when I saw that flash on the screen last night when they were previewing. I'm like, dude, yeah, it's one thing to do that.
Week they didn't 3. Take that out.
It's unexplainable. It's inexplainable to me.
It makes literally no sense. I guess people were saying that CBS did protect the Bills-Patriots game because they lost it the first time. But also could have gone to 4:00. They still have that Indy game in there with a backup quarterback. Guess they really didn't know where that would go. They could have, switched the Bills into 4. But yeah, to keep that game at Sunday night is very, very interested. It's just, it means nothing. I mean, Dallas is barely fighting for their life based on what happens tonight. And, Minnesota is as good as done. So they are done. So it's a very wild path. This is a weird year. We say this every year, but specifically this year, when you have MVP quarterbacks out of the playoffs, I'm sorry, that will constitute as a strange year to me. Like okay, but you're talking about the entire slew of AFC players. I mean, look at Houston, who everybody's scared of Houston. Like not scared, but everybody, doesn't like the matchup. They're just made it into the playoffs yesterday,
Right.
like into the 7 seed too. Like Houston's not even the one. They scrapped their way back to be the 7 seed in the playoffs right now. That's due to an Indy team who lost their quarterback and now sucks. So like it's really interesting how that is the team people are scared of. Obviously, we've seen them lately, but that still was the same team for the most part for the majority of the year. Like Stroud's been playing, like Nico Collins has been playing for the most part. The entire defense has been there. They've had those DNs the entire stretch. It's weird. Like everybody has been going through, including Houston, these 4 to 5 game stretches that look off, thus leading off to not even having some of these MVP quarterbacks. So it gets.
They can't score. They're winning all these games the exact same way. They're scoring 20 or so points, and they're just holding their opponent to less than 20. The thing is that I think that's what's scary here, Kevin, is they're consistently doing that. Like there's nothing scarier than a team that like has no offense and is rattling off wins against good opponents, because that just shows you how consistently dominant this defense is. But once again, I'll say this. If they sack Josh Allen 8 times again and pick him off twice and win the football game in the playoffs, tip your cap to him. I mean, you're going to do that twice, go to the Super Bowl and win it. Because, I mean, if you're going to be able to replicate that performance again, you deserve to go and win it.
Yeah, multiple turnovers from the MVP, multiple turnovers in each of these, even from Mahomes with 3 yesterday.
Yeah.
Get the guy. Yeah, everyone wants receivers, but this is what it could look like if you start paying receivers. That's a discussion for another day, or start asset allocating to receivers. You look like the Bengals, or you turn into possibly the Chiefs. They have no O-line. One thing I always stress here is the Bills O-line being dominant. They are number 1 in the league again in most analytical categories. They played a really solid game with one backup in who was the only one to really make an error. And then lastly, Sean McDermott just said today he's expecting potentially for everybody to be available in this game. So just said that about an hour ago. So, I mean, were the Bills banking on this New England game being the date that they roll everything out? It's not quite as important as you'd like it to be, with it being like really a do or die game, because the Bills are still going to need some help from a division team. But it could mean enough that the Bills were like, we're going to put our best foot forward. We're going to go there and show you that like we're the team to be reckoned with. And from there, we can't really do anything if they won't lose to the Jets, because Jets or Miami, because the Ravens game doesn't overly matter. It matters a little bit, and we can get into that Thursday. But I think that was a really good note that the Bills are back in full strength. So Zbot, how are you feeling entering this New England game? And we'll get into it on Thursday, but give us a little briefing on how you're feeling, like as the emotion of that game.
I've already essentially chalked up the AFC East as an L. It's going to take something special for them to win this, and it would be incredible if they did. We've seen it before. Miami collapsed. The Bills beat them in Week 18. They won the division, and going into December, they had I don't even know. It was an insane number to pull it off. Like, it was almost a non-existent number to do it, and they did it. So it's still possible. But here's why this game is big to me. It's big to me optically. I think it's a massive indictment on Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills if they lose to the New England Patriots twice in 1 year, in Mike Vrabel's first season as the head coach and Drake May's second season, because that team is on the path to do what the Bills have not been able to do in 9 seasons under Sean McDermott, and that's get the 1 seed. They're going to do it in 1 year, potentially, with Mike Vrabel. That in itself, to me, is a massive indictment. It would be an even larger indictment if you were to lose to them twice in 1 season. So even though I don't think winning on Sunday is going to end up being the difference in terms of the Bills winning the East, it obviously will go a long way. If they don't win it, it's over. Obviously, it's big in that regard, but I still don't think that New England's going to lose enough down the stretch to succumb to losing the division. I just don't think you can lose this game because of the optics that are entailed. I just think it's that big. And I also think, this is the potential 1 seed here. Them and Denver right now are tied. It's going to likely come down to those two to get it. This is going to show the world what the Bills are capable of when they get into January here. This is supposed to be the best team in the AFC based on record and based on potential seeding. You can go into their place and beat them. I think that that's going to prove a lot. And I think that this is what we are anticipating this upcoming Sunday. To me, it feels huge. This kind of feels like a playoff game to me, even though the ramifications of it aren't necessarily of the sorts, right? I just feel like this game feels big because of the fact that you have the potential to lose to this team twice in 1 year. And I just feel like that's a terrible look on this organization to do so in a quarterback's second season and in a new head coaching regime for this organization. I know Mike Vrabel is a veteran, and I know he's one of the best coaches in the league, but still, to go in and do what this team hasn't been able to do in this window, it's just a bad look. To lose to him twice is an even worse look. So that's why this game matters a lot to me.
I see that. Like, this is what the Bills always get into, though. Like, where they go and they do go all out, and maybe they do win. But does it come at the cost of showing certain plays? Does it come at the cost of them seeing your best on best? Does it come at the cost of an injury? Like, so there's, like, I heard a lot of other shows and even on the radio talking about, like, do you just bag it up for the 5 seed and make sure you're going in healthy for once? Like, I mean, there's so many ways to, like, especially in your mindset where you have chalked it up to the Patriots. Like, there's so many mindsets in this, but I do agree optically that you do need to take away a victory and do whatever you can to, and then knock them off. Like, here's the other thing. Like, even if you don't win it, guess what you make them do? They need to go all out to the end of the season. Because if you win this, then at least they're playing to week 18. Like, and that's what you want. You want them to have to play. Everybody's talking about, can the Dolphins do it? They look better. They do. They've won multiple games in a row. Like, one Baltimore thrashing away. If they didn't lose to Baltimore badly, like a couple of weeks ago, they would like be in the thick of it a little bit. But they did happen to get blown out by the Ravens. Otherwise, it would be really interesting. But we'll have to see how this all materializes in terms of, we want New England to be playing week 18. That's all it comes down to. That's ultimately, we can't let them run away with it right now. They clinched the division and really not playing for a whole lot beside the 1 seed against Denver if they do win this weekend. Jake, how are you feeling as you're entering this week, the emotion? Are you someone that wants to get through this game? Does it really matter to you? Do you, like, is the division still up here for the Bills, or you think they're just a 5 seed?
I'm feeling good entering the game, right? Coming off a win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Patriots have a bye week. I wonder what kind of game plan that the Patriots are going to come out with here. We'll discuss that more soon. But when you're looking at this game overall, I think that this is a big game for multiple reasons. I think the New England Patriots, they have to be at an all-time high in confidence right now. The run that they're on, beating the Buffalo Bills earlier this season. This is a team that you might see in the playoffs. I mean, the Patriots, they're going to go to the playoffs, but the Bills might end up matching up against them in the playoffs. You don't want them to have that, that mindset, oh, we beat them twice already, let's do it again. Get under their skin a little bit, get in their head, even if you don't win the division. Is it likely that the Bills win the division? Probably not going to win the division, but anything is possible as long as anything is possible. You control what you can control. Play your best football out here in the month of December. Control your own destiny and see what happens with the rest of the games. This game against New England, it's a big one for multiple reasons. For the fans, for the locker room, and then for the playoff seeding.
And we want to shout out to our show sponsors, Picasso's Pizza. We really appreciate them. Also, some of the best pizza in Western New York. Give it a shot, picassospizza.net. You can order nationwide. That's super cool. No matter how far you are, you can have a taste of home from Picasso's Pizza and be a part of Buffalo no matter where you're located. So give them a shot. So special shout out to Picasso's Pizza. Zbot, what are you working on this week? What do you got going on? Tell us, where can we find you? You got any good guys? You got a Zim battle? How did you get a recap with Zim, by the way? Like, give us your final updates.
I'll have a recap with Zim on the AFC North Roundtable. That's nice. On YouTube. So just search AFC North Roundtable. That'll be Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Looking forward to it. They were feeling pretty confident, and in many ways, I understood the confidence, right? They've had success against Buffalo. Burrow's back. The difference here is I think they put too much stake in what the defense did against a bad Baltimore Ravens team right now. I think that they expected a similar outcome here, but the Ravens turned it over 5 times. They had a fumble out of the back of the end zone. That defense in Cincinnati, it was as advertised against the Buffalo Bills, just not very good. And I think that they got away with one against Baltimore. 5 turnovers, Lamar not playing well. So I'm looking forward to talking to Zim again. He was right on many things. He said that Josh Allen would have to ball out, and that was the case. He absolutely had to. I think what they were not expecting was Joe Burrow to throw 2 really game-altering picks. That cost them the football game. And why would you expect that, Kevin? He hadn't thrown an interception. What was it, 170 attempts or something like that? So it had been a while. Yeah, I wouldn't have expected it either. So looking forward to that. And then over on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel all week long, we'll get you ready for Bills Patriots. Like I mentioned, I think it's a huge game. I think it'll prove a lot about these Buffalo Bills moving forward here. So cannot wait for that one.
Very, very fun. Got to tune into that specific episode. Jake, what are you working on this week? What's going on over there?
Well, it's a victory Monday for the Buffalo Bills. That means we have reading dumb comments coming out on the Bills Bunker tomorrow. It's always a fun segment, doing a little trolling of the other team's fan base. Gotta love it, bringing the energy. My live reaction from Highmark Stadium was released earlier today. And then New England prep. We're preparing for New England.
That's right.
It's going to be a big one, big battle. Can't wait. Stay tuned for all the content and
boots on ground in Boston this week, Jake.
Wait and see.
Okay, wait and see. There we go. Special announcement for the Bills Bunker coming up this week. But we really appreciate everybody tuning in to this special edition of a 3-pack of us. This is the first time I think we've ever ran us 3. So
yeah,
Dan is away, so it was really cool to get the show up and going. But we look forward to talking about the game on Thursday, specifically New England. Got to tune into Zbot show to see how they the AFC North roundtable to see how they're all feeling. What an interesting division. That is a wild.
Funny enough,
division.
I think the team feeling the best right now is the Cleveland Browns off a loss because of what they saw from Shadur. That's how crazy that division is right now.
I guess the Steelers feeling like they can win the division.
I mean, even whoever wins that division, it just feels like you're stamping your ticket to get rolled in the playoffs. So that's just how it feels right now.
Most likely, you might be betting on some bad matchup. Maybe the Bills get the 6th seed. That could happen if the Bills drop a game or two here, 2 games, call it down the stretch. They'll have the 6th seed probably. I mean, and then maybe you match up against the Chargers or something coming on the road. You might feel like you can sneak a division round game out of all that. I guess that's what you're hoping for on the AFC North roundtable.
Yeah.
We'll tune in to find out. But from Kevin, Zbot, and Jake, we really appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll catch you live on Thursday. And until then, enjoy Victory Monday. Everybody get out there and enjoy your night. And we'll see what this looks like on Monday Night Football. But we'll check you guys all on Thursday.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.